We're going to talk about the debate over guns and gun safety. It's a debate that in so many ways continues to take place with images really of the Newtown massacre squarely on our minds. And today, believe it or not, is 70 days since 26 people, 20 of them grade schoolers, were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary. Now, it's not far from the minds Newtown is of those talking about gun safety in Connecticut yesterday, and not far from the location of that gun forum both you and the congressman attended yesterday, Andrew. I know when you came back, you said there was a couple moments there for people that really spoke, that really stuck with you, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but really, no speaker seemed to take to the microphone or the podium without relating at least some emotion from Newtown or mentioning it directly, from Vice President Biden to lawmakers, police, mental health experts, everyone. Feelings perhaps best summed up by Lynn McDonald, who lost her daughter Grace in the massacre.
We ask that our representatives look into their hearts and remember the 26 beautiful lives that we lost and pass meaningful laws that will help prevent this from happening again. We owe it to our children, and I owe it to my daughter Grace.
Now, as many people know, and for some who don't know, your district is neighboring the district with Newtown in it. And before we get into the policy and the Washington of this, just your personal impact that this has had on you, your office, and so many people in that area. Because, you know, with the news, you turn to the next story after a while. This different, but still, people can't just move on in Newtown, and it's still a raw wound, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is, you know, and what it's done is it's created probably a geographical area, southwestern Connecticut, maybe Connecticut as a whole, where people have sort of set aside party and ideology and have just said, you know, as the mom we just heard from indicated, just do something, you know, and I think that recognizes the risk that we do drift. You know, tragedies fade into the past, as Columbine or Aurora or as Gabby Gifford shooting did. We drift away from the sense of urgency, and I think that's something that folks in Connecticut are pretty committed to avoiding this time around.
Still painful for you when you see the pictures?
Oh,
or when
absolutely.
You hear those stories?
No, you know, I go into classrooms all the time, and you know, I don't step into a classroom today, but I don't sort of feel that pressure on my chest of what happened. Unimaginable.
Define do something. You said there's a sentiment from parents, do something. In Washington talk, what does that mean?
Well, this, of course, is the instinct that people feel, and in you know, translate that into the public policy arena, and people are saying this with goodwill, and they're also saying it with less bona fides. You know, look at mental health. Let's talk about violence in video games. But most people also recognize that we've got a gun problem in this country. And it becomes very politicized there. And most people, when they say do something, they mean do some things that, you know, but for the insanity of this debate nationally, you know, fueled by the NRA and others, most people would acknowledge were smart things to do. Universal background checks for everybody. If you're going to buy a gun, we're going to just make sure you're not a former criminal, that kind of stuff.
As I like to say, 90-something% of Americans agree on that. We don't agree on anything that much in this country, but Americans do, and 3/4 of the NRA members do, but still we have a holdup on that. You talked about, let's say, the big four. It's the background checks, it's the extended ammo clips, or reducing the size of the clips. It's the assault weapons ban. It's that national database that you would think would go hand in hand. I'm getting conflicting reports, depending on who I talk to, that there's a chance that a lot of it could actually get through this Congress. And distinguish for us what's fact and fiction. I mean, you've got a much better sense than we ever will here about where the appetite is in the House, let alone the Senate, to actually push something like this thing through. Would we be pleasantly surprised that more people are open-minded than not?
I think the state of Connecticut, like the state of New York, will pass a package that looks a lot what you just described, a comprehensive package. In Washington, the hill to climb is steeper. My best guess now is that we may get a universal background check. We may get some pretty tough regulation on federal gun trafficking legislation, has a chance. If I were a betting man, I cannot tell you, and I'll tell you as somebody who lives close to Newtown, this does not make me feel good to say, but I could not tell you I've got a lot of confidence around an assault weapon ban or around a piece of legislation that I'm a co-sponsor of, which is, you know, putting a limit on the number of bullets in a magazine. It's just, this isn't, you know, the parties do break down on this issue, but it's not purely a partisan issue.
Without naming names, when you go around on the bill obviously close to you and you say, guys, let's just let's reduce the size of the clip here, okay? This isn't about taking somebody's Second Amendment away. Do they tell you privately, you know, Jim, I'd love to, but I'm going to lose an election? Or do they say, I don't believe in it because this is a slippery slope to taking away rights? Is it politics or is it principle that you're running up against?
I think it's a combination of politics. The NRA is perceived as enormously powerful. Frankly, I think misperceived
Me
as
too.
enormously
Yep.
powerful. But they do have a lot of money. You know, now we see some counterweight to that with, you know, Bloomberg and others doing some stuff. But no, they are perceived as a very powerful political force. And yes, my colleagues, some of them, are very frightened of them. But it's also an inability to shift the discussion into a smarter discussion. I don't hear anybody saying take away the Second Amendment, take away your shotgun, take away your 10-round clips.
Listen to
That's
Joe
not
Biden.
on the table. But there is a group here, and I would put the NRA at the front of the line, that is really interested in scare tactics. You know, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to come for your shotguns. You know, that's just not on the table, but it creates fear, and that makes it hard to have that reasonable discussion.
I think you said it to me, Andrew. Congressman, if you took your colleagues into the town and walked around Newtown and to the site of the school, do you think it would change minds?
I think it would change minds. Sure it would. Wouldn't change all the minds. You know, I think there are a few people who genuinely believe this idea that the only thing that stops a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun, but not many. More people, I think, are commonsensical but it would change some minds. Sure, you just can't feel what happened there, or what happened in Aurora, or what happened in Virginia, and not be affected.
Well, I know we all believe you're on the right path here with the bill that you've co-sponsored, and obviously fingers crossed also with the sequester. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes here. We know you've had a busy week, and you certainly got a busier one ahead.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Congressman. All right. When we come back, everyone, we're going to be switching gears and talking about an issue that certainly will dominate headlines in the month of March, and that is picking a new Pope. We have the inside scoop on what is going on at the Vatican as we speak, and there have been some developments today. Stay with us.